In this video tutorial, I am going to discuss about base excision repair. The short form is BER. Now, before we discuss about any DNA repair mechanism, we have to first discuss about the DNA damages which can be repaired by that particular mechanism. Okay, so right now we will discuss about base excision repair, but first we will discuss that what kinds of DNA damage, which can be handled by this base excision repair. So to understand these DNA damages, I will first draw a sample DNA. Suppose in this DNA we have A, G, C and T. This sequence is there. So its counter sequence will be T, C, G and A. Right? So this is the normal DNA, normal double stranded DNA. Now we know that the backbone of the DNA is made up of sugar and phosphate. So this is sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate. Similarly over here also. So these are all sugar phosphate. So backbone is made up of sugar phosphate. With the help of glycosidic linkage, these nitrogenous bases are projected inside of the double helix, right? So the sugar phosphate backbone is in the periphery and deep in the helix, these nitrogenous bases are there. The type of bond over here, this is the N-glycosidic bond, N-glycosidic bond, right? So with the help of glycosidic bond, this sugar moiety is attached with the nitrogenous base. So this is the normal structure. Now what happens? There are several different types of damage that can occur to this DNA. So first thing is due to this N-glycosidic bond. This N-glycosidic bond is a heat labile. Even at the 37 degrees Celsius temperature, this is normal body temperature, it is estimated that approximately 5,000 to 10,000 of these N-glycosidic bonds are broken down per cell per day. That means if you pick up any particular cell and observe it for the 24 hours in single day, so approximately 5,000 to 10,000 of these N-glycosidic bonds are broken down spontaneously due to our normal body temperature, that is heat. And when someone has heat stroke or someone has fever, when there is a higher body temperature, this number increases. So what happens if any particular bond, this N-glycosidic bond is broken down? So what will happen? This is one strand, this is second strand. Of course, this is the backbone. This is A, G, C, T and its counter pair is T, C, G and A. Suppose this glycosidic bond is broken down. What will happen? So this bond is broken down. So now this nitrogenous base is not attached with anything in this double helix DNA. So this guanine is also lost. So what will happen? Here we have vacant site where base is missing. So it is known as abasic site. Abasic site. Okay, so the short form is AB site. Now it is also known as apurinic site or apyrimidinic site. If lost base is purine, we call it as a apurinic site. If lost base is pyrimidine, we call it as a apyrimidinic site. So, or other name is for, it is somewhat specific, that is apurinic site or apyrimidinic site. So for this both name, there is one separate short form, that is episite. This episite denotes apurinic and apyrimidinic site both. So all of this terminology indicates same thing where base is lost. In our lecture, we will use this episite. Okay, you can use absite, whatever you wish for, but personally I prefer episite. Okay, so this is the kind of DNA damage which can be repaired by base excision repair. So the question arises that it is the sole damage which can be handled by base excision repair? No, there are many different types of DNA damages are also there which can be handled by this base excision repair. So the first one was this heat labile nature of the N-glycosidic bond. The second one is uracil problem with the uracil. Now we all know that in DNA, uracil never occurs. Okay, DNA is made up of adenine, guanine, cytosine and thymine. Uracil is not present normally in the DNA. But sometime because of certain problems, uracil occurs in the DNA. So what are these problems? So there are several problems. So First problem is spontaneous deamination. Spontaneous deamination of cytosine. This. So what will happen when this cytosine, it undergoes spontaneous deamination. Spontaneous means no any enzyme or no any catalyst is required. So it gets deaminated, so ammonia group is removed from the cytosine and then it is converted to uracil. I am not drawing the structure of cytosine, but when you look at the structure of cytosine, you can easily get the idea that if amino group is removed, then it is converted to uracil. Okay, so imagine that suppose this cytosine is undergoing deamination. So what will happen? What will be the resultant DNA? So again the same diagram. This is A, G, C, T, and we have T, C, G and A. Now suppose this cytosine is undergoing spontaneous deamination, so it will be converted to uracil. Now this uracil is abnormal. Okay, why? Because DNA never contains uracil. So what will happen in our body? We have one enzyme, one class of enzyme is there actually, which is known as uracil glycosylase. Uracil DNA glycosylase. As its name suggests, from the DNA it removes uracil. But this uracil DNA glycosylase is specific in certain ways, that it removes uracil base paired with guanine only. Okay, so what will happen? This uracil will be removed. So the resultant DNA is going to look like this: A, G, C, T, and on the opposite strand T. Now this uracil is removed. So here no any base is present, right? Remaining is same. Okay, so now as you can see over here, this is the vacant place. So again there is a creation of episite. Now this episite is created because of this particular uracil DNA glycosylase. And this uracil DNA glycosylase is specifically removes uracil, which is base paired with the guanine. And the second specificity of this uracil DNA glycosylase is it always removes this from the double stranded DNA. Okay, so this is the one problem of the uracil. The second problem with the uracil is that the same spontaneous deamination we had seen in this double stranded DNA, but we know that during replication and during transcription, momentarily this double stranded DNA is in the form of single stranded DNA. We know that during replication, when the replication forms, there is a single stranded DNA, right? Both the strands of this DNA separates. So momentarily for certain seconds, that particular part of DNA is in the single stranded. So in the single stranded form, suppose this is the single stranded DNA. I am drawing this upper strand only. Okay. In this single stranded DNA, this deamination is 100 times faster. 100 times faster deamination of cytosine. So what will happen? This cytosine will be converted to, uracil. So let's show it by the red color. And this is thyme. Right? So now this uracil is abnormal for this single stranded DNA. So how this uracil is removed? So there is again one type of enzyme, that is uracil DNA glycosylase. And it removes this uracil. So what will happen? There will be a vacant space. So here nothing is there, and then we have thymine. So again there is a creation of episite, right? Episite. Now this uracil DNA glycosylase is different from this uracil DNA glycosylase. As I had already told you, this is not a single enzyme, it is actually a class of enzyme. So this uracil DNA glycosylase, how does it is different from this uracil DNA glycosylase? So here this enzyme, its specificity depends on that it removes from the single stranded DNA, and the removing base is the uracil. So this particular uracil DNA glycosylase, it removes uracil base pair whenever found in the single stranded DNA. Now why there is a need of this separate enzyme? Because in the single stranded DNA, the spontaneous deamination is 100 times faster. So nature had provided us a different enzyme, okay, with the different specificity. Now the uracil problem, it is third uracil problem is also there. So we will discuss about the third uracil problem. This problem is somewhat unique. See, Suppose this is the template DNA, GAACT. Suppose this is the template strand. When replication is going on, what happens? We have DNA polymerase, right? This DNA polymerase has certain choice to insert nitrogenous base in the growing chain. Suppose this is the growing chain, right? This is 5' direction. So the direction of this synthesis will be 5' to this 3' direction. This is the 3' and this is the 5'. Okay. So now DNA polymerase, when it reaches up to this point, we know that it insert a cytosine nucleotide over here. But as a raw material, it utilizes the triphosphate. So here it has certain choices that it can bind with DATP or DGTP or DCTP. This D is for the deoxy, right? Then DTTP, and then surprising, it can bind with DUTP also. Now this DNA polymerase can bind any of these. And how the DNA polymerase specifically insert this DCTP in this place? Why it is so? The DNA polymerase can bind with any of these. It can randomly pick up any one. It will put up over here and we'll see whether that particular inserted base is able to make up a proper Watson and Crick base pair with this its template strand. If yes, then it can keep it over here. If not, suppose by mistakenly at this place, this DNA polymerase has picked up this DGTP. It will put up DGTP over here and then think, okay, this is not making a Watson and Crick base pair, so it will immediately remove. Then again randomly pick up. So here only DCTP will fit. So then it removes the 2-phosphate moiety, that is PPI, and cytosine monophosphate is added over here, and then DNA polymerase moves to the next base. So now when A is there, we know that DTTP should be utilized. But DNA polymerase is not such efficient in differentiating between DTTP and DUTP. So it can pick up any of this. But normally the DTTP concentration is very high when you compare it with the DUTP. DUTP's concentration is very low. Why DUTP's concentration is very low? Actually, you think logically DUTP is never required by our body. Why? Because this is deoxy, right? And deoxy is not required. Deoxyuridine is never required by our normal DNA. Then why in the first place body is producing DUTP? So remember one thing, DUTP is synthesized as an intermediate for the synthesis of DTTP. Okay, so whatever DUTPs are there in our body, they are eventually going to convert it into DTTP. That is, the DUTP is the intermediate in the synthesis of DTTP. So this DUTP, its concentration is very low, but yes, it is present. We cannot say that DUTP is absent in the cell. Okay, so as concentration of this DTTP is very high, there are very high chance that here the T will be added. So suppose at this place DNA is carrying out its action very faithfully. But at some rare occasion, what happens? DUTP is utilized instead of DTTP, and here uracil is added. Okay, then replication goes on by sequentially adding more and more nucleotide, and the replication completes. This is the 3' end. So here we can see this uracil should not be there. So again we have different enzyme. Again its name is uracil. It is from the class of uracil DNA glycosylase. Again the same name is there. I am writing same name because this is the name of class. It is not the name of particular single enzyme. Okay. Now this uracil DNA glycosylase, how is it specific? It is specific in a way that it removes uracil from the double stranded DNA only. This is the one specificity. Second specificity, it removes uracil paired with adenine. So by utilizing its two specificity, this particular uracil is removed. So resultant DNA will be like this, right? Dear C, T, here uracil is added, and which is removed by this uracil DNA glycosylase. So this place is vacant as it is removed by enzyme, and this G and A are there. So again you can see this place, again there is a creation of AP site, that is apurinic or apyrimidinic site. So we had seen three different problems with this uracil. There is also a fourth problem is also there. Now this fourth problem is somewhat not like this uracil problem, but it is still considered with the uracil problem. So for that, let's take up our example that we have on one side we have AGCT then other side we have TCGA, right? These are the proper base pairing rules. So this is the normal DNA. Now what happens? As a part of DNA regulation, some of the bases are normally methylated, and most of the time it is the cytosine. So this cytosine gets methylated. Remember, this methylation of cytosine is not abnormal, it is normal. Why this methylation is occurring? It is occurring for the regulation of genome, for the regulation of DNA. So when the cytosine is methylated, it is particularly in this form 5-methyl cytosine. So now this cytosine is methylated. Now as we had seen that when cytosine undergoes spontaneous deamination, it forms uracil. Here we have 5-methyl cytosine. So when 5-methyl cytosine undergoes spontaneous deamination, when its ammonia group is removed, it is converted to thiamine. So this 5-methyl cytosine is not abnormal, but this spontaneous deamination is normal. Why? Because now we have totally new base, and that is not required. It can lead to certain disease. So if this undergoes spontaneous deamination, and then what will be the resultant DNA? We have A, G. Now instead of 5-methyl cytosine, we have thymine. Why? Because of the spontaneous deamination. And then we have T. The opposite strand is unchanged. So T, C. And remember, not all the cytosines get methylated. Only at the certain particular location only that methylation occurs. This is G and then A. Now we see that this T should not be there. Now it is breaking down our base pairing rule, right? So here also, surprisingly enough, we have same class of enzyme, that is uracil DNA glycosylase. So the class of enzyme is same, uracil DNA glycosylase. Now opposite to its name suggests, by this class of enzyme you might think that it is removing uracil. No, it removes thymine. It removes T paired with G. Okay, it removes T paired with G, and the second specificity is from the double stranded DNA only. So now, because of the action of this uracil DNA glycosylase, what will happen? There will be a creation of A basic site, A, G. Now this is the vacant place, and this T. And then we have T, C, G, and these are the glycosidic bonds. So as you can see, here we have AP site. Again, AP site is created. Okay. So these four are the uracil problem. Now you might think that here also it's a uracil DNA glycosylase. Here we have second uracil DNA glycosylase, third uracil DNA glycosylase, and this fourth uracil DNA glycosylase. Now I had written the same name because they are the member of same family of enzyme. Okay, but if you want to point out this particular uracil DNA glycosylase, they have given one separate name, and that name is TDG. This is TD glycosylase. Okay, its specific name. When someone says that TD glycosylase, that means with this specificity it works. The second, this is removing from the uracil is removed from the single stranded DNA. The separate name is given to them is HS in the small letters, and then MUG1. This is the specific name of this particular uracil DNA glycosylase. Regarding this third, where it removes uracil which is paired with adenine, is UNG. The specific name is UNG, or you can say UN glycosylase. Okay, and remember, as this UNG is associated with the replication process with the DNA polymerase, this UNG is found associated with human repliosome. It is associated with human repliosome, right? As this needs to be corrected while replication is going on. Okay, so it is associated with human repliosome. And the fourth type of this uracil DNA glycosylase, where it is removing this thymine actually, not the uracil, and the name is MBD4. MBD4. So we have specific names of the member also, but simply you can remember that this is the uracil DNA glycosylase at all the four places. If you can't remember the separate names, then it's okay. But you have to remember that uracil DNA glycosylase is found in multiple forms, and all the specific names I had given. So now we had seen, till now we had seen heat labile nature, that damage, second with the uracil problem, that damage, and all are ultimately creating episite. Now, as we had discussed here, or the spontaneous deamination of the cytosine, there are some more bases are also there which can undergo spontaneous deamination. So what are these? So third thing is the spontaneous deamination of other bases. Spontaneous deamination of other bases. So adenine can also undergo spontaneous deamination, and when it undergoes spontaneous deamination, it is converted to hypoxanthine. Hypoxanthine. And guanine can also undergo spontaneous deamination, and it can form a xanthine. So in DNA, suppose we have this A, G, C, T over here, and then we have T, C, G, A over here. Suppose this adenine is undergoing spontaneous deamination. So what will happen? We have hypoxanthine over here, then G, C, T, and then we have T, C, G, A. Now our enzyme system knows that hypoxanthine never occurs in DNA, and so this needs to remove, and nature had provided us one separate enzyme, that is hypoxanthine DNA glycosylase. So separate glycosylase is there for the hypoxanthine, and so this hypoxanthine gets removed. Let's remove it from here only, and there is a creation of A basic site. So this becomes our AP site. Okay. Now regarding this second example, you can easily imagine if this guanine undergoes spontaneous deamination, then xanthine will be over here, and there is a separate enzyme for this, and that is xanthine DNA glycosylase. Xanthine DNA glycosylase. So we know, and we had seen that many different types of glycosylase are there. Till now 11 different DNA glycosylase has been found, and out of that only four are separately allotted for the uracil problem, right? Now you might think this is only the spontaneous deamination is the problem. No, there are many different problems can occur with the nitrogenous bases in the DNA. It may be alkylation, it may be oxidation, but this spontaneous deamination is the major problem. Okay, the one extra problem that I want to mention specifically is the oxidative damage. Oxidative damage. You can consider this as a fourth problem. We had discussed three problems already, right? First is the heat problem, second is the uracil problem, third is the spontaneous deamination of other bases, and the fourth problem I will mention over here, and that is the oxidative damage. So one particular sequence, suppose GC base pair is there, this guanine can get oxidized by the nitrites, or many oxidative agents are encountered day to day in our body. So the oxidative damage occur, oxidation of this guanine occur, and it is converted to 8-oxoguanine like this, and the cytosine is unaffected. Okay, now this 8-oxoguanine needs to be removed. So for that we have separate glycosylase, and that is MUT-Y DNA glycosylase. Okay, what this enzyme will do? It will remove this 8-oxoguanine. So what will happen? This base gets removed, so there is a creation of epi site, and this is cytosine. So again, as you can see here, epi site is created. So these are the most of the DNA damages which can be repaired by our base excision repair. Now we know what are the types of DNA damage which can be handled by this base excision repair. We can discuss base excision repair properly. So now this main mechanism, this main base excision repair mechanism is very easy. Suppose to understand base excision repair, I am drawing this sample DNA. This square indicates nitrogenous base, and I am right now drawing a normal DNA which is properly base paired. There is no any defect in this DNA, right? So these are proper Watson and Crick base paired nitrogenous bases in the DNA double helix. Now what happens? By the action of heat or DNA glycosylase, because of heat and DNA glycosylase, there is a creation of epi site, right? Apurinic or apyrimidinic site. Suppose by this particular bond is broken down. So let's remove it. So there is a creation of epi site. This is the epi site, right? Now what will happen to this DNA? This DNA is further repaired by second enzyme, that is epiendonuclease. Now what this epiendonuclease does, this epiendonuclease, it excises a portion of DNA having epi site. So this is epi site. So epiendonuclease, what it does, it removes this DNA, but not only epi site, it also removes certain neighboring portion also. So this all portion on this side also. So there is a huge gap in the DNA. So what this epiendonuclease has done, it excises the portion of DNA having epi site. So once this portion of DNA is digested, and of course it is a single stranded only, other strand is already there. Now this gap needs to be fulfilled. This gap needs to be filled up. So for that, DNA polymerase 1 comes into the action, and suppose this chain is from the 5' to 3' end. So we know that DNA polymerase extend the strand from the 5' to 3' direction. So what will happen? It go on adding nitrogenous base nucleotides over here. So one nucleotide, second nucleotide added, third nucleotide added, fourth nucleotide added, and then finally it cannot ligate this. So what this DNA polymerase 1 does, it fills up the gap, just like replication. Okay, now this gap, this backbone, all the nitrogenous base are attached, but this backbone needs to get sealed, and that sealing is done by DNA ligase. What this DNA ligase does, this nick is sealed by DNA ligase. So now our DNA is back to its normal condition. So this is base excision repair. Now what are the applied aspect of this? The applied aspect, one prominent applied aspect is that this particular mut-Y DNA glycosylase, it's sometimes defective. Why defective? As this is enzyme, it is coded by some other portion of the DNA. It has its separate gene. So if that particular gene is defective, then what happens? This oxidative damage to DNA gets unrepaired. Why unrepaired? Because if this enzyme is not working fine, then what will happen? 8-oxoguanine cannot be removed. This epi site cannot be created. And once we know that epi site cannot be created, then this epiendonuclease cannot remove it, right? So if this is mut-Y DNA glycosylase is defective, then it leads to one disease. The name of that disease is mut-YH, that is MUTYH associated polyposis. Okay, this particular disease occurs when we have defective base excision repair. So this was all about base excision repair and various types of DNA damages which can be repaired by our base excision repair, and this is the disease associated with it. So if you have any query or confusion, please write it down in the comment section below. Thank you.